what's wrong with me, I missed all of that.
I was
sleeping, man.
You got
Okay, folks.
You couldn't miss it.
Audit and Finance Committee today. We do not have a big agenda, but we do have an important agenda. Do you agree, Linda?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So, at this point, I'll turn it over to Linda, and we're gonna touch base today. We're gonna start out with, budget.
No, we're gonna start out with the February statement first.
Okay, then we'll get into that, okay? So, we'll get the easy stuff done, and then we'll do the highlights. Go right ahead.
So, as, after 11 months ending February 28th, we have a $9 million gain. Did this to me last time. Bear with me.
Now, remember something here, what the authority's doing is we're maximizing any funds that could be available to us through this whole craziness. Okay, we are doing our best to maximize that.
Okay. Regular line and special line revenues are still trending the same, as well as the advertising and other. In total, our operating revenues are about 9.6% over budget and about 42% over prior year. Expenses, same thing, trending the same within each expense category. The largest variances right now are, as they have been all year, in the salaries and wages, with a 9% under budget. Same with other employee benefits and payroll taxes, trending about 10% under budget. As well as healthcare, trending 12% under budget. The only two lines that are currently running over budget is workers' comp, as we discussed in prior months, due to people being able to get their treatments. As well as this month, I think we also had a settlement of one of the claims, which also increased expenses. Purchase transportation also trending over budget due to increased service.
Zooming in, clean that up.
Sorry, it just says up there. There you go, sorry. Materials and supplies, services, both of those lines are starting to trend very close to budget due to increases, due to inflation right now. And same with the utilities. Now it's starting to exceed budget as well. So federal assistance, state assistance, the same trend, because of the additional state. After our final budget, we've used more state assistance than federal assistance. And MRT still trending very, very good. This month though, I have to say we had a disappointing MRT month, with it only being about $700,000.
Which is still very good. I mean, at some point, the curve's gotta, it's gotta come.
Yeah.
You're
so-
right, as far as you can.
Still trending over prior year with Onondaga and Oswego in the MRT though. So if there are no questions about the financial statements.
Questions from the board? Healthy report.
Okay. So no questions, we will move into budget.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept that. Neil? Second, Tina, all in favor? Very good. Now, when we get into this budget, which, and Linda's gonna talk not only about this budget, but she also just mentioned a very light conversation on some future years out and some projections that she's been working on.
Yeah, and in addition, we have the capital budget as well, and capital projections to review. We're only gonna be reviewing the changes from the proposed budget that we gave you and presented to you in December. Melissa, you wanna come up? Yeah. So I'm gonna have Melissa, she's going to review our consolidated operating budget. I wanna thank her and her team for doing an excellent job finalizing the budget. Melissa, Len Suits, and Mike Smeal worked with staff, all the VPs, managers, on finalizing our budget. Thank you everyone for all your efforts. Is that better? Yeah, that looks good.
So as mentioned by Linda, the highlights for the changes. I'm gonna try to work on both screens. Okay. So for operating revenues, they changed from proposed budget by 7%, with it primarily being in the special line revenue. The change drivers there are projections to our service revenues, service we provide to our vendors throughout the community, and that's hopefully we'll have a full staff of drivers next year and we'll be back to normal service, so that's where that increase is driven from. Under operating expenses, they changed 3% compared to the proposed budgets, with the highlights being in salaries and wages. The primary changes there are we project that all departments will be fully staffed and operational for the entirety of the year next year. Staff changes as well as the COLA increase.
So, I like conservative budgeting. What do you think the chances are that every position will be staffed the entire year? You know, that's why I like this type of budgeting, because, you know, you look at your worst case scenario of your expenses.
Right. And hopeful that we're fully staffed, right? That's
Oh,
our
I hope
goal.
we are, but I mean, you know how it is.
Workers' comp is another increase to this proposed to the final budget, and that's just based on current trend, a full workforce, and the cost of things going up. And then the other two highlights are going to be in the materials and supplies and the services, and it's no new story to any of you guys that, you know, costs go up, and then with inflation, we wanted to make sure we were accounting for that.
So we're gonna see more increases in, supplies, et cetera, because as we all know, the cost of fuel, the cost of, supplies, supply chain problems. So those provisions are within this budget.
Yep, absolutely. And then the last changes you'll see are in the non-operating revenues, and they went up 2%, and that was to compensate, you know, the increase of expenses that's offset by the operating revenues and made up by non-operating revenues. And then you'll see a flip-flop in funding from federal and state. In the proposed state governor's budget, they estimated a 13% increase in STOA, so that's reflected in here, and because we're having more funding in STOA, we'll have less need for federal assistance. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Great, good job, Melissa.
So based on all of those trends and assumptions, we also had to develop a multi-year operating budget. So we projected out the next 3 years. And I've just highlighted the same areas that Melissa just discussed, because basically the trends changes that we had in the 23 budget are gonna be reflected in all the projection years as well. So we're still representing for the 23 budget balance. We project that in 24 we'll be able to do that as well. By fiscal year 25, what'd you say?
Can you zoom in on?
Yes. I think I can. Can't get it to go any
The
further.
bottom right corner, we'll zoom the light, zoom in on it.
Or you can just, what's the page? People can look if they want to get clear.
And then the budget book was highlighted or not.
Oh, okay.
No. Maybe it won't allow. That was
Oh, I just got it. That's good. Right.
yeah.
Oh, it flip pages. No, I'm okay. Just flip pages. No, it won't do it. There we go. There we go.
Thank you.
So by fiscal year 25, that's when we will start, we will use up our ARP funds and start tapping into our reserves. As you can see down here at the bottom, we'll have a projecting of $14.8 million. I'm sorry. Yeah, 14. .8 operating loss. And we'll have to be using our reserves in that year and also fiscal year 26. And that's based on with the federal assistance and using, like I just said, the ARP funds and PM in the following years. But the state assistance I kept flat. The only reason you see it increasing is for the state PM in the final years in 24 and 25. And the MRT local assistance, we kept those areas flat. Any questions on the projections? One of the things I wanted to also show you in this,
Do we think it's likely that the state assistance does stay flat, or that?
it has never stayed flat, but we always budget conservatively that way.
In the past, we've been told that, you know, with Governor Cuomo, he always sent a letter and say it's flat or a zero increase.
And the other thing is, this is an election year, so, I would think that everybody wants some love that's running for office, so, you know, we might see, I'm optimistic about an increase because of the year we're in right now. So, but we can only do what we know, we can only propose what we know.
The other thing I just wanted to show you, I added a column over here for our pre-pandemic year, just so you could see, you know, where the budget and the projections are compared to that year. Even when we get out to fiscal year 26, you can see we're not even, for our total operating revenues, we are not even at the pre-pandemic level. And expenses year over year, you know, normally it's usually a 2 to 3% increase in expenses, but now they're trending anywhere from 5 to 6% going forward due to the current trends. So that's all I had to go over with the projections. If there's no questions, we're going to move into the capital budget.
Any questions, everybody, you comfortable? Okay, it's a balanced budget, it's balanced. There's been years before where we've had to put, some provisions in there of, borrowing against our reserves, bringing forward a budget that's, in the red. And, it's nice to not see that right now.
Yeah. Just to maximize it, I'm trying to get the budget up. And stuff coming up. The budget book, I'm just trying to get the budget book up. It's not here. You can just scroll up and down like that. Here's-
There weren't any real big changes from our preliminary budget to our final for the capital projects that we have listed. We had to move a couple projects that were supposed to be completed within this fiscal year, but due to the pandemic and different supply chain issues, we weren't able to do that. So we had to move forward. Bus procurements, there are a couple things for the CNG station in there, and also some computer upgrades that will allow people to work a little bit easier from a remote standpoint. So as far as that capital, this part of the capital budget, there was nothing huge that changed from what you saw in the preliminary and the projects that were proposed at that point. From looking at the budget that you have in front of you, do you have any questions about the capital budget for 22-23?
Once again, just, a typical, our buses diesel, the larger ones, and, the natural gas there.
Mhm.
What's the cost right now, just so the board is aware, just, I wanted to.
So the current contract for buses, we're paying about 470,000 for a diesel and 516,000 for a CNC.
516.
16, yes.
I just wanted the board to know that this, those are significant purchases for a bus.
You'll see them right here, stacked up against each other.
And remember, EJ's trained me quite well. They have about a 12-year lifespan.
Correct.
Any other questions? The budget is broken out by county as well, so if you're looking at it, it's Onondaga, Oswego, Cayuga, and Oneida. And the funding sources of the particular projects that are in here, as they're completely funded. Okay. Do you have the projection in here? Lynn?
That was in that book, in the budget book, you
Sorry,
just needed
that
to
is-
scroll up, sorry.
Got a little scroll happy, guys, sorry about that.
I think you're going the wrong way.
I don't have anything underneath that, it's blank. It's blank.
They have it in their budget book.
Okay.
Hang on, I have the.
That's okay. I can just read off of here, I don't know if they have it.
Yeah.
As far as the 3-year projection, that takes us from 23-24 all the way through 25-26. We have projects that are currently funded or within the grant process. And underneath, you're going to see a change in the list of unfunded projects. So what we did is we categorized them the way we would as if we were building the TIP. And within that, there are a number of projects that we can go into detail, but they fit into categories. So there's building and facility upgrades, there's vehicles in there, there's service and shop equipment in there as well. And the projects have increased since the last time you saw the preliminary budget, and that's because we went through the TIP building process and went through all of the assets that needed replacement. So within that, there is a large number of projects. You will also see the BRT in the different phases listed within there. You will see the consolidation of the Utica and Rome facility. That's a $30 million project that is out in the 25 year, but you'll see the engineering services for it in 23-24. And those are listed under planning and engineering phases. So you'll see the very large projects listed there. The other ones that are notable mentions, some paving and things will be done here at the Syracuse facility, as well as our very large bus procurements that are upcoming in the next 3 years. Are there any specific questions to the preliminary or final projected budget?
I think my question is more for Chris. Has there been a determination on whether we have to go to the electric buses or not?
Yes, it hasn't been passed in the House yet.
Okay.
So the Senate in their one House bill put in a green transit, green jobs bill. That the Assembly hasn't put anything forward on their end, but the Senate has, which would require procurement of electric vehicles or zero emission vehicles starting in 2029.
2029.
There was also a bill for 2035 that hasn't. I don't know if the governor has signed that one yet. We're working with folks that are the coalition that's put forward the Green Transit Green Bill or Green Jobs Bill because of our investment in CNG and as you guys hear about the improvements to the fueling station here in Syracuse, it has a 20-year useful life. So using federal money, we have to meet that 20 years. So we want to make sure that they account for that in this process.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
So
so
how will it impact what we do on our facilities?
yeah, so we're working with them on that. If it even, it's got to pass to get there, but we are doing the research and looking at that and trying to, if it does, that there is an amendment that helps us with the CNG side. Our outside properties are all diesel, so Oswego, Auburn, Utica, and Rome. And they start, some of their diesel procurements will start in 2029. It'll be a little easier to convert those, so we're looking at that as well. I think Jeff's gonna go a little deeper on our future plans with hydrogen and things going forward, but.
And a detailed list of projects if you guys want to see them for what was proposed in the tip going forward to SMTC as well.
Questions? I always wonder about the batteries of these buses and how they, I'm still not 100% sold on. I just wanna find out which company's gonna get the perfect batteries so I can buy the stock.
Well, and they're not cheap.
Yeah,
My
that's
brother,
right. I worry about that.
my brother's in the used car business, and he has a hybrid, and, he has to replace a battery in one of the cars, it's a $600 battery, just for the one. I think it's a
So imagine a bus.
So, yeah, they're not cheap, and, you know, the impact that has is much larger than we're seeing just by saying put batteries in buses. So, we'll see how that plays out.
And what do you do with it?
That's another concern. There's some conversations going out there as far as recycling, trying to create recycling plants that take, you know,
Like
the
a
platinum, the
deep
cobalt.
cycle
the-
battery or something you take back to the store, you get your $15 or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah, and then there's talks of, well, you can use these batteries to create a charging bank, which you can store, you know, the excess energy you have, and then use that to charge other items or, you know, use it for the facility if there's certain things, but just the maintenance on these and the space, it's a lot, and that's a lot of what we're trying to say, you know, during this transition is there's a lot of research that hasn't been done. And to put a finite deadline to say 2029, you have to start buying these, you know, the technology still has to be tested, and what do you do with it? How does that work? You know, there's talks of, you know, fire trucks that are going all electric, and, you know, for you guys with the plow trucks and the city trucks, how does that impact you guys doing trash and plowing all night in a snowstorm on a battery electric vehicle?
Yeah, I was thinking.
So there's
about-
just the technology as a whole still.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this a little bit over December. I replaced, my mother has a 2-year-old or 3-year-old Cadillac with not a lot of miles. So she had a new battery. It was like $220. I said to the guy, I said, I just need a battery, that's all I need. Right? I haven't replaced a battery since the 80s when they were like $30 or $25. Right? So I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what I was paying for. And then it hit me. I said, Jesus, I mean, it's not even that old a car, and you gotta get a new battery. I mean, this is gonna be just an expense wise.
How are they gonna maintain in the weather? I mean, a Syracuse snowstorm.
Right, and that's some of the research that we've done, you know, when they bring the buses on property, you know, they say, oh yeah, they get 300-mile range. Well, it doesn't anticipate when you turn the heat on, and what we've seen in most cases is the battery efficiency cuts in half.
It's like a golf cart, you know, losing its
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah.
It starts chugging along, and you see these buses starting to stop on the hills of Syracuse. You know,
And then you factor in the hills fully loaded, you know, hopefully fully loaded as ridership continues to rebound, but that impacts the range of these vehicles, and, you know, that's driving our decision to look more towards hydrogen than being stuck with just the energy that's in those batteries. So.
good job,
Thanks.
good job. Linda? Anything else before I go?
That's it for the budget for fiscal year 23.
There's no other questions, I need a motion. So move it. Tony, second, Tina, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Good, great job with the budget team, great job, everybody that was involved with it, thank you. I know that's not an easy task, but it has to be done. Okay, we have, a couple resolutions here.
No, one more motion
I'm sorry,
for the insurance reserve.
That's it.
My finance report
yeah.
had it as a resolution, the
Right.
agenda had it as a motion, and the motion is correct.
Okay, so
Sorry.
it's a motion for the increase of the health insurance reserve. Okay, so let's, why don't you give a little background here on why we're doing this?
Well, we established this health insurance reserve in the prior year, and we asked the board to designate a health insurance reserve, and this is mainly to set aside funds for, in the event we have some healthcare costs that are exceeding budget, or we have instances where there's a potential large exposure for the authority. So we asked you to establish that $1.5 million reserve. because of the way the healthcare costs are trending. And we're asking that you increase this reserve by 1.5 million to ensure that we will be able to meet our healthcare costs in the future.
This is a very good move. We have, once again, we have a self-insured plan. The self-insured plan then has a cap for stop loss at, 250,000, and then another insurance kicks in. And the one thing about stop loss, correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, is once that kicks in, it's only like for 12 months.
That's correct.
And then it starts all over again.
That's correct.
I don't like that rule.
Yeah, well, the insurance company
I
does.
know. But this really is good fiscal planning. The authority is in a position to make sure that our reserves are, healthy. And this helps us, once again, we're taking good fiscal actions here for future years.
Is there a cap for this particular reserve?
We set it.
You said.
So, you know, and remember, there's been times before in the past, years ago, when we were in a tougher situation here, where we've actually had to take board action to go into reserves to borrow money. But, you know, at this point, I think we're in a very good place. I think that the team, I'm all about reserves. All about reserves. Okay, need a motion with this? Tina, second, Neil, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Now move on
Yep, the resolution presented by Kate.
for the PA, system replacement. Take the head seat there. Take the seat.
Good morning, thank you, Mr. Chairman, good morning, everyone. So this is the resolution for the PA system replacement, and this will be paid for with 100% federal grant funds. So this invitation to bid was publicly let on January 12th. We sent out January 18th, we sent out 12 bid packages, and an additional 12 packages were requested. On February 8th, we received 2 bids, with the lowest responsible bidder being Matrix Communications, and they offered a price of $31,682. So it's my recommendation that the board award the PA system replacement to Matrix Communications.
That was pretty, decent range there.
Yes.
between the two.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was, and that was mostly due to the system that Matrix bid. It actually utilizes a lot less wiring than typical systems, so that cut costs on materials as well as labor for the installation.
Interesting. Questions for Caitlin? Good job with this. I need a motion, please. Tina, second. Tony, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Liz, any other things you want to discuss?
That's everything that needs, board, motion or approval, but, the only last thing I wanna say, and this is for, future months, next month, we don't typically bring any financials in the month of, April. We're busy closing our fiscal year.
Fiscal year closes March.
March 31st. So, you'll just have whatever's on the agenda for resolutions or motions or other items. In May, we'll bring you the preliminary financial statements, prior to, the finalization in June, when they'll be fully audited. And, you'll have a presentation with our auditing firm in that month. That's it.
With no other questions, we'll adjourn the audit and finance committee. Let's take about 5 minutes and then we'll come back. Meeting in March. Let's start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Tina's gonna lead us with the pledge today.
Oh, okay. You ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next meeting will be April 22nd. Also, we'll have a quick annual meeting. I will be in contact with the nominating committee for officers, chaired by Luella and Robert. Monty's on that, and Joe's on that. So I'll be in touch with them, and we'll be dealing with that at our annual meeting. Also, it'll be the quarterly pension meeting, which should be fun to hear, because it's been up and down, but maybe it'll end up good by March 31st. But it has been a roller coaster, especially when you're talking about, we oversee almost $90 million in pension. Yeah.
I was more comfortable with $90.
The only time I was nervous around during this position was in 07, 08, 09, and I really liked, you really appreciate what actuaries do. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes of February 25th. Okay, Neil, second, Tina. All right, at this point, we're gonna go with our executive officers report. Chris?
Okay, you have Brian's report, drawing down the CARES fund, we've completely exhausted the CRISA funds. We still have a few million left in those drawdowns. As we talked kind of in the past, or what we're talking about, we're continuing to meet with Oneida County on some rural transit service to reestablish the existing rural transit service they had out there. Pre-COVID, they suspended it. So we've met with them to continue to try to find a way that we can establish some of that service for Oneida County. We've also had several meetings through January, March regarding BRT on-demand service with internal folks, the bike and scooter share program. And then we've also looked at the boardroom renovation, which hopefully, as you guys saw on the screen today, the image is a little blurry and tough to read. It's not just your eyes, it's the technology in the room. So those are some of the projects and ongoing meetings that we're having. As far as public transit funding, as we talked about in the preliminary budget, the 13% was put in place by the governor's budget, and hopefully in the next 7 or 8 days, we'll find out how we come out if she does pass the budget April 1st. But just an update, if you haven't seen the Assembly and the Senate have put in their one House bills a 36% increase in SOA, which is great.
Statewide.
Statewide. Well, yeah, this is for downstate. It'll match the downstate non-MTA. So as you look at the budget, MTA has their budget, downstate non-MTA, and then upstate, which we qualify in. So the governor's budget upstate had 13%, but to match downstate non-MTA, the Assembly and the Senate both put 36%, which is amazing, and we're appreciative of that. So that'll help us, allow us to start implementing some of those initiatives that we're talking about, the on-demand service, the bike scooter share, and some other programs that we have.
So we didn't budget that yet until everything is finalized.
Correct. And that's, until she signs off on it, like we said, budget conservative. Continuing to meet on BRT, it is a hot topic. We met virtually with the city, and we're continuing to work on that and discussing the next steps of putting in an RFP for a transportation consultant to help plan and assist with our all of our mobility issues, but BRT is one of them. So that'll include, you know, the on-demand type service that we're looking to implement. Similar to what we have currently with CNS engineers, they're an engineer on retainer, so we're looking for something similar with that in this process or this consultant. Brian met with the Independent Living Council virtually in March 7th to talk about supportive central efforts, and we committed to keep the council as well as the community groups in the loop for additional services that we're looking to put out there. And then as we talked about the bike and scooter share program, Brian and myself are continuing to meet with the towns and villages to get this program and get responses, and they're still continuing to be positive. So we're hopeful for that. That RFP is out on the street currently. So we'll hopefully have a response back and the evaluation in the next couple months and bring something to the board.
How's the discussions with the towns and villages going? Is it all positive, or some of them just not understanding, or?
It's
not
they're
interested?
they're open to the concept. You know, we've explained it to them that we're also looking to get feedback from whoever we select as the vendor. Of course, they're the experts in this and how it works within the towns. You know, bike lanes, sidewalks, population need, opportunities that are there. So they're open to it. It's really just gauging their interest. So is it something they're interested in? Once we have a vendor, we can then expand that conversation. But you know, OCC is very interested in it. They were very excited about it. You know, we talked with Thomas Salina. We've had several. We met with Camillus. We have a meeting coming up this Monday with DeWitt, I believe. So they're open to it. It's very entry level conversation, but I think once we know more on the vendor and kind of their feedback, we can go back to them and see if it's really something they're interested in.
Yeah, it's been overwhelmingly positive.
It's good to hear.
Any other questions on the executive report?
Brian, any other additional comments?
No, just covered it all, thank you.
From there, we'll go into the executive reports. I can throw mine out there first from our perspective. Every 2 years, New York State DOT does a biannual review or an audit. They come in and look at all of our PMs, our buses. They actually do live bus inspections. We put buses on the lift form to do to determine the state of repair, make sure everything is functioning properly. They were supposed to come last year, but I think COVID kind of delayed them, but we did get it done before the end of this year. They look at PMs, accidents, post-accident, drug testing, different things, making sure that we're in compliance for safety, we're doing the right measures for our service that's out on the street. So we completed that review. We're happy to say that everything that was found was miscellaneously procedure items, as far as just having the paperwork documented and together and some reporting. So there were very minor corrections that we had to make. We're in the process of giving that response, or putting that response together for the state DOT. That'll probably be sent out next week to then get a final letter of compliance audit, with no findings. So they inspected buses here in Syracuse. They also inspected buses in Utica and had no issues with any of our buses. So that's a great thing. It's continuing, I'm trying to think of the word, the work that Jeff's guys do, how well they do and care for our buses, both here in Syracuse, Utica, and also Oswego and Auburn. Follows through with the triennial review that we do on the federal side, that we've had 6 consecutive no finding audits. So this is just the state's level of that version, that we're meeting those compliance requirements with the passing with flying colors. So that would be my report. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just thought, who are your suppliers for parts and stuff like that?
The suppliers for parts, it varies depending on the part we need. Some of them are strictly OEM that we have to get from the vendor or the manufacturer. Some of them we can find locally, through Napa, Granger, different things. So We have a widespread, Linda and the stockroom team have quite an inventory list of different vendors we reach out to.
Chris, what is that drug policy? How often do we test? Is that kind of stuff?
So on the FDA policy, and Jackie, you can jump in if I misspeak, we have to, if you're safety sensitive, we have to meet a certain requirement of random testing. But then on top of that, we also do post-accident testing. So depending on the severity of the accident, you know, if the vehicle was towed with disabling damage, how did the accident take place? We also have a company policy that says if something doesn't make sense, that the driver might have dropped somebody off in a spot that wouldn't make sense, or the accident seemed funky, we can also test under company policy for that. So.
The legalization of marijuana change our policy at all?
It did not. A CDL is a federal license, so marijuana is not federally legal. So we're a drug-free policy, a drug-free facility on all that.
Good point. Thanks.
Any other questions on? From there, we'll continue. Jackie.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just a little update on our recruiting efforts. We have a new operator class starting on April 4th. At this point, we have 7 candidates for Syracuse, 1 candidate for Oneida, and 3 in Cuba. We're still participating in virtual fair jobs. We have one that we're going to participate in next week with the Department of Labor that is hosting it. We also have another one that's set in on April 13th. It's a woman-focused job fair that we will be participating in. And we're continuing, obviously, our advertising for all positions, all non-salary positions at Central. If you've seen, Steve Cagle will probably go into a little bit more with, you know, we're still got our advertisements out there, and we had the bus in the St. Patrick's Day Parade advertised that we were hiring. So we're trying to get people in here.
How did the numbers end up in the last class?
Our numbers ended up actually very well in the last class. We had 19, so we started out with like 21 and we had 19. 11 of those went full-time. So yeah, we were very pleased with the last class. We were hoping to have around the same this class, but we're not getting the candidates. So.
Where do we stand on being fully staffed?
For what positions?
The writers? The most.
The operators.
The operators, we are still very understaffed. We're still probably about 30 full-time down, because when we get them, we lose them, just 2. Because the market is rapidly changing and people are jumping jobs very fast. Unfortunately, you know, that's why we wanted another class of 20 this time, but it's not gonna happen. Yes.
How is your, just me for you, how your position for union is that?
Yeah, we have a very good, I think we have a fairly good relationship with the union. We have open communication. We're meeting with them on a monthly basis now, so we can address any outstanding items that maybe come up throughout the month. So.
The reason I mention that because a lot of times between conversation, a lot of misconception between.
Yeah, no, we have, you know, the union has direct lines to Chris, myself, Joe DeGray, even Brian Schultz, so. Any other questions? One more point, I just wanna send a reminder out. You will receive a reminder via email also. As members of the board of directors and policymakers for Centro, you're required to submit a financial disclosure statement to JCOPE every year. I know, don't roll your eyes. And
it's like a thesis.
Yeah.
So once you get through it and it loads, okay, the following is, it makes the following years easier.
Yes.
Because then that will preload. And because I have to do one for Herkimer County and it's a manual process. So every year I have to manually, so there is worse, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It is worse.
Yes.
Just remember your password.
And I think, I was gonna say, I think for the new board members that you haven't done it electronically yet, if I'm not mistaken.
No, we did the paper
I
and
did
sent
it
it
anyway,
in.
I don't know
Right.
about it here.
So this time around, I will, I'll give you a little instruction kind of on how to do it, on the computer and everything. And, you'll have to set up a password and log in. And if you guys need any assistance, please reach out to me. I'll, leave you my email, you have my phone number and everything on there. So I can always, I can always walk you guys through the
It
steps.
is great because I'm an idiot and I can't remember my
No,
username
you're
or my
not.
password.
That's the biggest thing, you're only gonna see it once a year.
Yeah. It's actually due May 15th, so I'm gonna send out the reminder the beginning of April, probably the first week of April, I'll send it out to
And
everybody
that'll come out to you,
via your email.
First taxes, now this?
Yeah.
Spring.
But like the chairman said, once you have it all electronically done, the next year it'll be a lot easier and you won't have to spend a lot of time on it. So, and that concludes my report, unless anybody has any other questions.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Last month I brought to you that we were going to Gillig Bus for the bus build. Just wanna let you know, everything is going very well. We have the staff present, and what they do is they help reduce some of the smaller issues that become bigger issues in the future. I talked to my staff, we have them there doing this, on-site, checking every bus, making sure everything is going very well. So, they also came to me and said, it's John Weber and Tony Badalona. They work with their project manager, Gillig's project manager, every day, they talk about stuff. They came across a problem. The AC unit, HVAC unit that's in the bus is being delayed. We've got, logistics issues that they're having. So they're gonna delay the bus build by 5 days. But don't worry, they're gonna be on the beach.
Right, they're in Southern California right now?
Northern California. San Francisco.
Oh.
No, actually, I talked to them. They said that they're gonna be able to actually go through the buses that are currently built a little more quickly and make sure that everything's looking really good. And that helps out with the future of the buses.
How long is in the bus still, man?
On the bus path, yeah, right now. I don't know when that's gonna.
Currently, they extended that through April 18th. And we'll see if they extend it again. They extended the March mandate very close to the March 13th date, so we'll see if they extend it again for April, but right now it's April 18th.
The other thing I want to talk about was an application for a low-no grant, which is a low emissions, no emissions grant, which is a program that provides funding for purchase of zero emission buses or low emissions, which we have low emissions now. We're going zero emissions. We're looking at hydrogen. So this actually will cover the buses, the acquisition cost of construction that requires for the support of everything. There's 1.1 billion in this grant, which is I think 84% greater than any other ones that have been out there throughout the years. So several of us are going to go on some field trips. So on March 31st, possibly Chris, Mike Rice, and myself are going to go to Plug Power in Latham, New York. Plug and BAE Systems, both are local New York companies, are collaborating to offer a hydrogen-based electric propulsion system for transit buses. They'll discuss their product development and manufacturing center for their global fuel cell energy engine product line. In addition, Plug Power's got a fuel generation plant out in Rochester, so they're going to be able to provide fuel. So we'll do some research there. And on April 5th and 6th, we're going to SARTA, and it's going to be E.J. Mills, Mike Rice, Josh Kidder, and myself. SARTA is Stark Area Transit Regional Transportation Authority in Canton, Ohio. They actually have, we're going to ask them a series of questions about their facilities and buses. There's 2 bus manufacturers that have hydrogen. New Flyer, which was just recently here, we looked at that, we drove it around. It was great, except for it didn't have any heat because it was a California bus. And then there's El Dorado. El Dorado is, SARTA has El Dorado buses, so it'd be good to see that bus. And they also have a paratransit bus, hydrogen fuel cell paratransit bus. So we look forward to seeing how they operate, how they fuel, what the differences are, and what we do here. So it'll be good experience for us to go out there and look at this. We'll come back with more knowledge to help us out with the grant application, which will be submitted by May 31st.
Is that as far west as we want? I was gonna volunteer.
For now.
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Doesn't say, because there are other.
I'll wait till we get a little further out.
Okay.
Then I'll-
Little past Canton.
They, in Canton, they are the farthest east of a hydrogen bus being operated in transit in service, so, there's a big presence in California. There's, New Flyer just sold Champaign-Urbana, which is just outside in Illinois. The, articulated buses that are, hydrogen, so they're the 60-foot with the accordion in the middle. So it's slowly getting this way, but there's nobody else closer, so we wanted to get out there to see their vehicle, to help drive the application process if we want to go with an Eldorado, New Flyer, or maybe try to come up with a combination of them both to get them on the road here in Syracuse and see how they perform prior to that 2029 date or 2035.
This is for my information. How does it work well, hydrogen bus in cold weather and so?
It does perform better than the battery electric bus. You know, if you have a cell phone or you have different things and it's really cold, you take it out, you notice your battery's down, or performance of different things. So that impact of weather on the battery applies to the battery electric bus. With the hydrogen, the hydrogen is actually creating the electricity to continue to charge the battery as the bus is driving down the road. So with that, it also allows us to capture some residual heat from that chemical exchange to provide heat to the vehicle. Where a battery electric bus, if you're fully battery electric and you turn the heat on, now that heat source draws a lot of power. So that'll draw down on the battery. So our goal is hydrogen would help mitigate that battery drawdown. So, you know, all the energy we charge on the bus before that bus pulls out and we unplug it, that's what the bus has for the day. Where with hydrogen, it continues to create electricity to charge the batteries on the bus to provide a longer range to meet that need. There's a great article, an executive summary that I can forward to you, Julius, that talks about hydrogen versus battery electric. I think, Brian, did you send that to the board?
Yeah.
I believe you might have already received it, but if you haven't, feel free to reach out if you've misplaced it, I can send it again. But it does talk about the weather and how it impacts battery electric versus hydrogen.
That'll help me in my retirement to do some research.
Yes.
These will be some of the questions we could ask Sarda when we're there, is what is the range you're getting, all these months?
Yeah.
So hopefully get that information, because they're saying it's supposed to be 300 to 350 miles on a day, or on a full bus. So we'll see.
Fueling's a lot quicker with hydrogen. I mean, if you plug it in, the battery electric bus is gonna take
Hours.
6 to 12 hour, somewhere in the range. Mostly, I think they're down to about 6. Where with a hydrogen bus, fueling it takes about 7 minutes.
7 to 10 minutes.
So,
Wow.
so it gives us a lot of opportunity where, spare ratios and bus replacements, if the bus has to be plugged in for 6 hours, it's of no use. But, running here in Syracuse almost 24/7, we need more buses on the road, so it requires to purchase more buses, which would be, efficient use of taxpayer funds.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Great report.
Steve?
Thank you, Chris. Good
When
morning.
are you
Chairman, good morning, everybody.
When are you gonna go ahead?
April 5th and 6th.
Take some pictures when you're out.
Absolutely.
Bring some back to us for the next.
Yeah,
You got it.
that's a good idea.
In and out. And some of the dots, I'm curious about that. All right.
Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna start with some ridership information from February, the month of February. It was continuing the trend that we've seen for recent months. We're slightly above 50% ridership, from where we were from pre-pandemic levels. COVID still impacting ridership. Also, our service levels are not where they were pre-pandemic. That's also impacting ridership. We did add some service March 7th to some of our routes, increase some frequencies, mostly a customer request. These are just suggestions and responses from customers who wanted that particular bus back that they had before, and we were able to answer some of those needs. We introduced, as you know, the new fares on March 7th, the dollar fares. That's been going well. We will probably in the next couple of months start seeing some impact of the new fares and how that's going to impact ridership. It's very early at this point. The transition's been relatively smooth. As with any change, there have been some hiccups, but we've been able to respond to them pretty quickly, so everything's been going fairly well. We have been advertising the heck out of those fairs. We've sponsored just about every traffic report we can get our hands on. And in tandem with that, we've also had a media campaign for bus operators and mechanics, which is, you know, I tell everybody that I talk to, nothing matters unless we have people behind the wheel. So nothing we do in these four walls matters until we get our staffing up to where it needs to be. And I'm going to show a couple of the commercials that we have running right now. One is, you may have seen before, that one is $1 fares. This is just a quick sponsorship tag for the traffic reports you might see on the local television stations.
Yeah, this was, I don't know if everybody's seen them, but they were nice. On Spectrum.
Volume.
Hey Central New York, have you heard the news? Centro is now offering $1 fares on its city bus services. Adults ride for just $1, and seniors, individuals with a disability, and children ages 6 to 9, just 50 cents a ride. You can't beat that, so don't delay. Hop aboard at Centro Bus today.
And the other spot that you may have seen is our human resources room. In-house.
Nice job.
Really nice job. Only thing made me nervous was a hammer underneath the.
I thought I saw a different one on TV of a woman crying next to the gas pump or something, and then it just flashed Centro. Maybe not.
Maybe we need that one.
That's the one we need. Maybe it
That was
was two
me.
different
That was me.
commercials back to back. I caught the tail end of the one, and then the next was Centro, and I thought that is brilliant.
There is one that's more focused on gas prices that we've been running, so the timing seems to be right. Gas for something a gallon, and now our fares are just $1. We're hopeful that will have some impact on our ridership, encouraging not just new riders, or not just our current riders to ride more, but also to encourage some new riders to give us a shot.
What is the budget for the advertising?
The budget, it depends. This year, it's upwards of $200,000 and beyond if we have a need to spend. So we're in a better place than we have been before from an advertising budget. But we save a lot of money by doing some of this stuff in-house. The production is amazingly expensive. You know, for the price of a $5,000 camera, maybe don't know what it is, but it's a camera and some lighting. Casey Brown, Lynette Peguano do a fantastic job of coming up with concepts, executing them, getting cooperation from all of our staff. It's the best stuff we've ever put out, and we've gone through a lot of agencies in the previous times, and nothing has ever come out as well as this. So I'm very, very happy, very proud. And we're also doing more videos that you may find us on YouTube, how to use the fare box, how to ride, all of some of our rules and regulations. So what happens is when people have questions, we send them to our YouTube channel or send them a link to a video, and they can see it, which is a heck of a lot easier for them to understand than trying to explain to people. They love videos. It's very, it walks them through just about everything that we do.
So you use every Facebook and all that stuff, free advertising and,
Yeah, Facebook, we have a significant following on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. So we send all this information out via all the social media. We send it to people's cell phones who have signed up for our services. They get alerts that tell them, hey, listen, look for this, here's a link to it. So we really are doing the best we can in being proactive and reaching out to people in a it's not a passive, it's more of a, I hate to use the word aggressive, but we're contacting people specifically rather than just putting it out there and hoping they can find it. So we were able to reach people, which is great. And
Steve,
then
are you getting
technology.
much kickback on $1 every time you get on the bus? I got 4 phone calls.
Some, and we're.
And I'm like, you're not losing more money, it's the same, but if you only have a 1-leg trip, you
Yes.
save.
And if they're riding every day and they get a weekly pass for $12, then it's less than $2 a day. So what we tell people, if you're a daily rider, if you're riding every day and you transfer every day, get a weekly pass for $12. And then, if you're riding 10 times a week, it's a $1.20 a ride. So it's $1.20 a day.
What's it called, the other thing, it's a card thing that you have on the bus, you swipe the card.
We're testing right now the mobile ticketing for your cell phone. So that, we're in final stages of testing. We're getting the technology set up. Actually, we're in the final stages of getting the technology set up. We're gonna begin testing shortly. And hopefully in a matter of weeks, we'll be able to roll out mobile ticketing, which will allow people to buy passes, set up an account on their cell phone, buy passes, order them, pull them up on their phone, walk up on the bus, just put it in front of a reader, it'll beep, and then their fare has been satisfied. So, just more technology. And as it moves forward, it moves quickly. It moves very quickly. So.
Tony, you like the music? I saw you moving a little bit.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's a nice little commercial.
Any questions? All right.
Good. Thank you. Good work. Thank you.
Thanks,
Sure.
Steve. Mike?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Piggybacking on Steve a little bit, talking about the technology, I'll start off with the GF5 install we've been doing. Carlos and a team of people actually worked last weekend to actually update the OLVs, if you will, online validators on the buses themselves. So we've come a long way in the last couple of months in making these things actually work well. That's where we're getting ready to do the testing and get that going from that perspective. So thank you to Carlos and Bob and Tom and Jeannie Barankovich and Josh Hart, who were very strong on going out to all of the locations this past week, setting up the firmware, installing them, and I think we have like 25 buses that aren't done yet, so that's pretty outstanding. Maintenance Connection, you've been hearing me talk about that. Well, guess what? Next Friday is D-Day. We go live next Friday. Just to kind of give you an idea, a little bit about it, we've actually created almost 3,600 plus work orders since January. They've completed about 70% of those work orders at this point. A lot of those work orders have been from preventative maintenance application programs. The spotters booth out here is a requester, so they put in this information in there. They've been very active in doing that. Plus the building's ground side. We have a web interface that actually goes to that kind of like the help desk for the web that's now working fairly well, and they're getting involved in it as well too. More than, I think it's like 89% of the employees who use the system are actually using it right now. We have a few new folks that haven't used it yet. So the feedback's actually been pretty good. Looking forward to get that going next week. We do have a technician coming here with us next week. He'll be here with us from Tuesday on for us to go live on April 1st. I think April will be a very challenging month for us as we do this, because it's like anything else. When you have change, people resist the change in the process. So we're having to work through that. But I think the overall process that we're getting through, the overall feedback is very positive.
Speaking of change, you remind me when the analog was out, they had to take my analog phone away from me.
And that was last week.
You're right.
There you go.
Another big project that we're actually working on is on the back end side of the servers. We have this Hewlett Packard Nimble system, it's a storage device that'll come on premise here probably about April 4th, being delivered today to our vendor for setup and coordinating. It's about triple the size of what we currently have that it's gonna be replacing. So it'll be faster, it'll be bigger, it'll allow us to do all kinds of different things. We store servers on there, we have some desktops on there, and we put our test environment on there. So a lot of the business applications we have, ADS, Microy, and the business application software, including the EMC, will actually be hosted on this device. So it's kind of nice to see that come into play and get that going. We'll phase it in on April 4th, April 6th, and then hopefully by the end of the second week of April, there will be fully operational of that. Taking the technician from Hewlett Packard coming in here to help us set it up and then migrate us over. Kind of an interesting project to see. We'll see.
This may be a silly question. What you do it all here with old things?
So it depends. In general, anything that has any kind of value or life to it, we auction them off. So we have a bulk auction site that we try to get things through. A lot of times it doesn't happen, so then we have to go through and we recycle them. So there's a couple of places locally here, Wallace over in Liverpool, but we take a lot of the equipment and then they recycle it.
You have to keep a manifest with this from cradle to grave. For audit purposes. I've been through one of those. I thought the audit was gonna take like 2 days. It took like 3 months.
3 months,
Yeah.
Thanks, man. That concludes the executive reports, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Good job, everybody. Excellent work. As we continue on here, we're gonna discuss our audit and finance committee. Linda gave a presentation on our revenues and expenditures, which showed us we're in a healthy position. All signs are indicating that we will end the year fiscally in good shape. And we've had a good run this year, probably the best effort we'll ever see again with the mortgage tax. That is something that blew my expectations, looking at that for many years. Looking at that for 17 years, I've never seen numbers like that so that's good for the 4 counties that are contributing, because that means there's movement in real estate, which is positive for the economy. The only area where there really was some issues, but it was explained well, was in the workers' compensation. Looks like there's some catch up, there's some settlements. I like settlements with the workers' comp, to be honest with you. Get it off the books, get it off the books. With that being said, a motion was made to bring it to the full board for approval. Can I have a motion at this time? Julius, second Tina, all in favor? Also, we continue the final version of the budget from an operating budget and capital. We have to always remember there's 2 budgets here, operating and capital. We're now at a point where the authority from an operating budget is $85 million, which is grown. I think we're in, once again, a very good place. We've managed the money well for the taxpayers. We've rolled out great services in all the 4 counties. Haven't seen too many no's on certain things, initiatives that need to be done. And we've, I think, addressed and respected the staff that we have here in these budgets. It is a tight job market, and I think it's important to take care of the individuals that are in this room for what they do. And we make sure that we have a lot of routes for the riders. And I think we really have teams put together a good quality budget. We've also addressed over the year reserves, okay, because we've been in a position to create the reserves, fund the reserves. And I believe we're in a good place financially. I think through the efforts that we've just seen, the ridership would come back. If gas keeps going up, which none of us want to, I think there will be an impact, because history has shown that, I think, before when this has happened. Anybody else have any comments on the budget? I think we're doing, it's good, it's a good place we're in. With that being said, the finance committee brought it to the board, I'm in motion to the board for approval, I need a motion at this point. Tina, second, Neil, all in favor? Aye. Also, a motion was, Linda brought forward the increase of the health reserve up to 3 million. Once again, in self-insured, there is risk always in self-insured. The way you attack self-insured, I think we just hire younger people between like 20 and 29. But, Julius, we're out of it, man.
Yeah.
Make them walk to work.
Fruit. No, it's interesting, though,
Out of Syracuse,
the
that
young
came out
people
myself.
that I have been involved with interviews with, there's a couple things that I really noticed at this point in my career. We don't really care how good your health insurance is because we're healthy, and we don't really care about retirement because that's too far away and I won't be here by that time anyway. So, show me the money now. So it's a new generation that I think we're dealing with, and Jackie's shaking her head. So it's a global impact.
Get some good health insurance.
Then you start breaking down a little bit, you realize, but anyway, motion was made to, increase the health insurance reserve to 3 million. I need a motion at this point. Tony, Neil, second, all in favor, aye. Caitlin, on the resolution 3B, Caitlin brought us, on the PA system replacement, which she did a great job because we can see there was quite a difference in between the two companies. A motion was made in the finance committee to award contract to Matrix Communications for the PA replacement system for 22. I need a motion at this point. Tina, second, Tony. All in favor? Aye. Okay, did I miss anything? I don't have cheat sheets here this week, guys, so I'm just gonna hold it on. Okay. Okay. We gonna have an operations report?
We are. I'm gonna pinch hit for Joey Gray. He is on his way to Miami.
No, that's one I would.
He's going personally. You can try to catch up with him. See if he'll let you tag along. He's finally getting his cruises in from several rescheduled during COVID. So
Just trying to give you more support.
Yeah, board support's always good.
Let's hope we don't get stuck on that cruise for months.
Yeah, but he will be back for next month. So just an update on his end. As we know, we've concluded the union negotiations here for Syracuse, which is our largest contract, which is Oswego, Auburn, and Syracuse. But we also have Rome and Utica out there. So we've started with the ATU 582 negotiations, which is Rome. We did 2 days with them last week. They're much smaller. They're on about 8 full-timers and 5 or 6 part-timers, I think. That might be pushing it. So they made a lot of progress. We've made a lot of progress on that negotiation. Hopefully one more meeting sometime, probably the second week of April, we will have that contract finalized or in good shape to finalize there. And actually, the next one, the UPSU, which is the Utica Collective Bargaining Agreement, there's a correction to that note. They had, the union board had a death in the family, so we were unable to meet on the UPSU contract, but we do have a scheduled dates for the second week of April. I believe it's the 13th and 14th of April to kick that off. We've had some conversations with them already as far as some ideas and the proposals they're looking for. So we think that'll go well there also. Not on Joe's report, but just kind of a training and different thing. As I talked about PTSD coming in to do their review last month, they're also here this week. They were here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, doing a bait fish training, which is bus accident investigation training for identifying safety hazards. So it's more for our supervisors and our management staff to investigate accidents, post-accident stuff, as far as diagramming the accident, reporting requirements to the state. So we hosted the meeting today, or this week, for 22 individuals, most of which were at Syracuse, from Syracuse or from Centro, a couple from our Utica office, and then we had folks from Rochester, Oneonta, and TCAT down in Tompkins County. So they're finishing up today. That's what parking is a little tight. You see some state vehicles here, but It's a great training, very informational for our staff to continue to investigate accidents properly, to continue to perform well in these audits that we have going forward. And that concludes the operations report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. I'd like to, this was a great meeting. I tell you, we really appreciate the work that's done around here. You make our life a lot easier. At this point, I want to ask for a motion for an executive committee. It's regarding the contract. I'd like council to stay in. I'd like Linda to stay in, and everybody else can be excused. We will not be coming out for any other information or action.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back out of executive session, no action was taken. We have a motion for adjournment, enjoy your weekend, take care.
Thank you.
Okay.